everybody, welcome to Basic Stitch Knitting Podcast. This is episode 13 and this is a real episode 13. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you should go back to episode 12 in which I wouldn't stop saying, oh, this is episode 13, go back to episode 12. It's like Inception. So this is a real 13 and episode 13 is a good number in Chinese culture. On Wednesday that just passed, there was a typhoon coming to Hong Kong and it was a very serious one because we have like different signals like T1, like typhoon signal number 1, T3, T8, and then T9 and 10. I'm not sure about the 9 and 10 because we very, very rarely have them. We usually do 1, 3, 8, and don't ask me where is 2 or like where's 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know. It's usually 1, 3, 8. T1 basically is just telling you there's a typhoon, but usually we don't really care. Maybe it's just raining. T3 is windy usually, and T8 is something that we really like because when there's T8, people don't need to go to work and students don't need to go to school. I think for a kindergarten student, probably they don't have to go to school at T3. I don't know. Okay, so there's two different things. One is like a rainstorm signal and another one is typhoon signal. For rainstorm signal, if it's amber, red, and black. We like black because black means no school, no work. And typhoon signal, T8 means no school, no work. And we're really happy about having T8. But Wednesday, we had T9, which went up to T10 like in an hour or so. And it has been a lot of years since we last had 9 or 10. So it's a serious thing, but it's fine. Like we do have typhoon very, very frequently, and we're kind of used to it. But unfortunately, for some reason, Macau doesn't seem to be very used to it. Macau is right next to Hong Kong. For those who have never been to Hong Kong, who have no knowledge about this area of the world, which is fine. The Hong Kong Observatory hoisted the T9 or 8 or 10 very, very early in Hong Kong. But Macau kind of hoisted it only a few hours after Hong Kong did for some reason, unknown reason. People were not really prepared for it and some people actually died. Like a car park was flooded, like from floor to ceiling. And if I'm not mistaken, 6 people actually got drowned in the car park. They just couldn't swim it back out there, which is a tragedy. And it's something that rarely happens because I know like when hurricane hit some places in the States, for example, there were always news about people dying, people getting injured. But usually those are quite rare in Hong Kong. And I've never really heard of anything that's particularly bad in Macau. But this time it's just really serious. And the top guy at the Macau Observatory actually had to resign, which he should. And today there is a second typhoon coming here and it's now T8, which doesn't affect anybody actually because it's Sunday and we don't have to go to work or school anyway. But if I'm not mistaken, I'm not out there, but I think people who work in supermarket and some restaurants, they still go to work. Anyway, I just hope everyone stays safe, and I don't know, it probably doesn't matter to you guys because you're not in Hong Kong, but this is a bit crazy because we just had the first typhoon on Wednesday, and today is Sunday and we're having the second typhoon, and a few days later it's gonna be a third typhoon. But I'm not sure, like it has already formed. I don't know where, but usually it's formed near Philippines or Taiwan, and it will come to Hong Kong probably, but I don't know. I am not following the news about the third typhoon. Not even the first, actually. It's actually fascinating to people who have never experienced any typhoon. It's a very, I think, a very Asian, Southeast Asian thing because we're like really close to the sea, and a lot of typhoons actually forms near Philippines, and I guess it's because Philippines has a lot of islands, and then it's surrounded by the sea, and geographically it's just the best place for the formation of typhoon. Like, what do I know about it? I don't know anything. I've never studied, I mean, I studied geography when I was really young, but I didn't study enough to know about formation of cyclones or typhoon, hurricane, whatever. I mean, I'm not sure if I've said this, but on the 1st of September, which is few days later after this video is uploaded, depending on when I actually upload this video, I will be hosting my first ever KEL, which is called Basic Stitch Color KEL. And it's a color work KEL. You can do stranded knitting, you can do double knitting, you can do all sort of color work. I actually don't know how many type of color work there are in the world, and basically if you think something is color work, it's usually is. I mean, I would draw the line at striping. You know, if you're knitting, striping socks, for example, or a sweater with stripes of yarn, I don't think that's color work. Just because there are more than one color doesn't mean it's color work. But otherwise, a lot of, you know, like 2-color brioche is color work to me. And I think it is. So I'll be really, really happy if you would go to the chatter thread and talk about the project you're gonna cast on, the color work project you're gonna do. I'm not sure how many people will actually join because I know this is a very humble podcast. I always use the word, I don't want to say like very small or whatever because I don't know, it just feels very self-deprecating. I wonder how many of you who are watching this will decide to actually join, but I just hope more of you could join, and the rules are all written in the thread. And if you're not sure about any aspect of the rule, do ask away. I will reply to you in the thread. And if it's something that a lot of people have questions about, I'm definitely going to talk about it in the next episode. Other than that, just ask away. And if you're not sure if it's color work, if you're not sure if... Because one of the rule is the dominant feature of that project has to be color work. And if you're not sure whether that's dominant enough, do ask away in the thread. And there is also a bundle, a pattern bundle that is linked to in the thread I was talking about. So if you need more inspiration, do go to the bundle and check it out. I'm going to cast on I'm going to cast on a Marius sweater on the 1st of September. And after that, I'm actually thinking about casting on some hats. I actually have a hat in mind. I want to knit a hat designed by Caitlin Hunter, and I definitely want to have another bobble hat by Donna Smith, and I want to knit this Swancho, Ninil Chick Swancho by Caitlin Hunter as well. I think I love all the work by Caitlin Hunter. She's Boylan Knits on Instagram, I think. I'm not sure. I'll just write it down here if I didn't get it right. When I'm thinking about my to be cast on color work project, I look at my yarn stash, and for some reason I just feel like, I mean, for the Marius sweater, I know what I'm going to use because I have a lot of Drops Lima, which is DK weight. I'm going to cast on Marius sweater in DK weight. And I have a lot of navy and 2 skein of white and 1 skein of red, which will make a very, very traditional Marius sweater color combo. Other than that, I'm not sure the yarn for other projects. I was actually thinking, you know, like for Ninil Chick Swancho, it asks for Tweety yarn. I mean, it's not like it asks for it, but in the pattern and in the sample sweater, and also what other people have been knitting, like in the project page of the pattern, most of the time people use some sort of tweedy yarn, and I feel like if I'm not using tweedy yarn, I probably couldn't produce the effect of like very, very beautiful sweater that I saw on the pattern page. So I was like going to Deramores or loveknitting.com or Wool Warehouse to look at tweedy yarn, sweater worth of tweedy DK yarn. All of a sudden though, I was like, wait, what happened to my stash then? Because how can you spend a lot on yarn, but at the same time when you look at your yarn stash you think, I don't have yarn to knit, like I need to buy yarn for this swan show. I don't have yarn, I don't have tweedy DK. And then I realized a change in habit in terms of relationship of knitting pattern and yarn stash. A few episodes back then I actually asked the question whether you buy the pattern first or the yarn first, like what starts the whole process of knitting. I said I usually look at my stash first and then I go to search for like, what are the best patterns, like interesting pattern for my DK weight yarn, for example. I said that's what I did, and I just realized it's actually not what I do anymore. Like I used to do that a lot, but nowadays there are just a lot of new patterns coming out every day, and a lot of them become really famous. But anyway, I just see a lot of like very interesting pattern that I really want to knit, and then I just buy yarn thinking that I will knit that project. But after getting the yarn, I'm attracted by another pattern, and I forgot about the first pattern and also the sweater quantity of yarn that I bought for the first pattern. I was attracted by the second pattern and buy more yarn for the second pattern, and when I was doing the buying I wasn't feeling guilty because I was like, oh, this is not impulse buy, I actually have a pattern, a project in mind. But it's like I just didn't stop doing it until at one point I was like, wait, I do have a lot of sweater quantity of yarn, but I'm not casting those things on. And now I'm thinking about knitting a swancho, which by the way is perfect, but I just feel like I need to use up my stash first. If not 100% of it, then at least 50 to 60 or even to 70% of it before I want to buy new yarn. And I think the first step to do that is that I need to really look at my yarn stash and to reorganize them, because I feel sorry for my yarn stash. Since I was in secondary school, I've always known that having fewer things will make me happier. So I'm shocked because I know what will make me happy. I know having a lot of yarn is not going to make me happy, but I'm not really doing the things that will make me happy. So I just want to put a stop to it. I just want to pull myself back to the track where my yarns serve a definite purpose. I know this is controversial, but it's not like, like bad controversial. There are people who are really happy with a lot of yarn. If you're happy with that, you do you, but I'm not happy with a lot of excessive stuff that I don't see using them in the near future. So what I decided to do is to look at my yarn stash, getting them all out from the shelf, because if they're just in the shelf, they look organized, they look tidy. I don't really, I feel like I need to flood myself. That's what I usually do with my clothes as well. I still declutter from time to time, and usually what I do is I put them all out to kind of overwhelm myself, and then to decide what I want to keep or what I'm going to give away, and then how I'm going to organize them so that I stay inspired. And that's a key word. I want to be inspired by my stash. I don't want to look at my yarn without seeing them. I want to really have a relationship with each of my yarn, and the only way I can do it is to really organize them in a way where I can reach that goal. And I'm going to film the whole process of what I'm going to do, and I hope it will make sense to you, and I hope if you're like me, you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed or even a little bit guilty about your stash, I hope the video would be useful to you. By the time I record this, like me sitting here talking to you, I've actually done like 80% of the reorganizing. So I figure I might want to say something about the process first. First of all, I'm pretty sure there are people who feel really happy having a lot of stash. I did feel very happy because when I first started to knit, I tried to buy yarn in a yarn store in Hong Kong, and it was so underwhelming. But at the same time, when I watch podcasts, watching people talking about their stash, a lot of people seems to have gazillion skeins of yarn, and I just don't know how that happened. But then I started to buy yarn online, but even then, I don't feel like I had a lot of yarn. I just felt like accumulating stash, no matter what people say, was something that's gonna make me happy. You know, there are people who say, oh, I feel really guilty about my stash. I just feel like it's kind of like show off, you know. It's like rich people saying, oh my god, I'm so overwhelmed by my cash. I just have too much money, I don't know what to do about them. You know, that kind of feeling. And that's actually the reason why I feel like I want to talk about it now before I show you my stash organizing video. And that says, it's actually, the guilt is real. I'm not sure if one day I have like a lot of money, whether I will be like, oh my god, I'm so overwhelmed by my money. But right now with yarn, because they are like physical stuff, they don't represent other things. You know, like money represents other things. You know, money represents food and houses and cars and, you know, creme brulee. But yarn is an ends to it. I mean, you can argue it brings happiness when you touch it, when you think about it, when you're dreaming about the next project you're gonna cast on. It's happiness, you know, but at the same time, it's way more limited than money. So it's not a fair comparison between, you know, money and yarn. And having too much yarn is a real thing. You might feel like, oh, your yarn isn't really big when compared to those who have like a wall of yarn. But what is enough is going to be different for everybody. And what I'm having now is way more than enough for me. And I do feel bad. You know, when I first put all of the yarn on my bed, it was like, oh yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm pretty sure my viewer will love this. Like sweater quantity of this, sweater quantity of that. But at some point, you know, not even like more than 60 or 50% of it, I literally felt bad. Like the kind of bad that is not only in my mind, but also like I just felt heavy. And it's sad because I really, really love knitting, and yarn is kind of the building blocks for my knitting experience, and feeling heavy about yarn is definitely the last thing I want to experience. And I kind of want to like stop doing it. I want to just take a break, drink some water, and decided to come back to it. And actually, now when I'm talking to you, there's still some yarn in front of me that I don't know how to organize. And let me tell you, first of all, sock yarn really doesn't count. And I thought sweater quantity of yarn is gonna be the pain in the butt for me. But after like dealing with my yarn for like 80% of the process is done, I believe, sweater quantity ended up is not the worst to deal with. The worst case is where they're like a single skein of things. A single skein of different things. I just don't know where to put them, like how to organize them. It's like when you're decluttering your house, it's a kind of miscellaneous thing where you just don't know, you know, like nail clippers, paper clips, and stickers, sellotape. you know, things you just don't know what they belong, like which category they belong to. That is my single skein of yarn. Now I'm just trying to do them like, oh, your DK weight, oh, your Aran weight. You probably should go to color work, I think. And then the worst thing is like, I don't see them. I don't see them going together. Anyway, I don't know. Let me know how you deal with those like single skein of yarn. Those are the worst, let me tell you. Okay. Oh, by the way, if you feel like I'm not looking at you today, it's because this is the first time I record with my phone and I can see myself for the first time, because I used to record with my brother's camera and I couldn't see myself. And the problem is when it's really blurry, when it's really blurry, and when I am blurry, I couldn't see it. So I just want to try to record it with my phone, hoping that it will solve the problem. But I'm actually now not with my glasses, so I can't really see things. And even though when I'm looking at my screen, I can't really see me. So I don't know why I'm looking at my screen. It's just a natural thing for people to do, maybe. Anyway, so yeah, please do bear with me and forgive me if you feel like I'm talking to a ghost in your room. Dun, 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 dun. Halloween, spooky! Well, still a month to go, but who cares? And also one thing I'm not doing is I'm not really throwing things away. Usually when I declutter my wardrobe, I do throw things away. But right now, I mean, I donate things. But right now, I don't really feel like I need to throw any of my yarn. And there's nowhere I can donate my yarn right now, but it's fine, I'll think of a way to deal with those single skeins. So just in case you won't see me again before this episode ends, I'm going to say goodbye to you right now. But I'm pretty sure I'll say goodbye to you later on anyway, but you know, like in terms of my face, I'll say goodbye. So this is my yarn stash. It's not 100% of it yet. I'm going to show you the rest of my yarn stash later. But this is how I usually organize my yarn stash. Like at the beginning, I kind of organize my yarn stash according to its shape. As you can see, the two cubes at the bottom are for yarn that comes in hanks above them, or for the yarn that comes in a skein of yarn. So there is a sheet of plastic covering the shelf, like the back of the shelf and also the front of the shelf, because I want to shield the yarn from dust and from moisture. I have all of my sock yarn, or like the fingering fine yarn that comes in a skein here. And then for here are more like a thicker yarn, like Aran weight yarn and DK weight yarn, and mainly they are of sweater quantity. And then the bottom two are mainly for yarn that come in a hank. This scrumptious, I think it's called fibre spade scrumptious, should be over there. So how I did this is these are mainly yarn in hank, but this are like quantity, like sweater quantity yarn. And this are more like fancier yarn, as you can see, and also like single. They don't have, you know, a partner. They're not sweater quantity. But then at the same time, I kinda want to keep some of them together. Like say for example, the hot pink one is Hifa 2, I think, which is what it's called, ask yarn, fingering weight or sport weight. And I only have one hank of it, but it's there because I kind of want it to be with her family, which are these. Like these are all, except this one, these are all from Hifa. And then I bought some more yarn in sweater quantity. And these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they are mocha yarn, and they're definitely of sweater quantity. But I didn't actually have space for mocha here, so I moved them here. So now in the States, they kind of like not what I want, mainly because they don't inspire me anymore. I know there are a lot of people who have much bigger stash than I do, but this is already making me a little bit uncomfortable. I'm not living a strict minimalist life, but I really enjoy the process of reaching there. And what I'm doing with my yarn stash is definitely the opposite of it. So like what I said, these are not 100% of my stash. There's still some yarn hidden away from our side there in the wardrobe. And let's now get them all out and start the stage where I talked about just now, which is to overwhelm ourselves. So the first task I'm going to tackle is to deal with the yarn that I have a sweater quantity of. So what I'm going to do is, for example, this is a fibre Cumbria fingering yarn, and I think I have 4 skein of it, so I'll just write the details of the yarn and then the number of skein, and there I include the colorway as well, but you can do without that. But if you have like more than one colorway of the yarn, then that's a good idea. I'm going to keep one hank for the shelf, and the rest of them will go to this bag. Of nipple yarn? Just how much do you love nipple, Celine? Did I say sock yarn doesn't count? It doesn't. Oh my god, who are you guys? My fade. Just kidding. You, DK weight yarn. Pretending to be DK, but it's actually sport. Oh, these are actually DK, but I don't know, you look alike. Fingering weight for color work, cotton yarn, and these are like really old yarn, and I don't know you guys. So this is how they look like now, and we can now see there's something at the back so that the yarn don't fall out. Because although I did put like a film of plastic at the back, sometimes there's just like a hole at the edge, and I don't want anything to get in there. This is not the safest system, I must say. So here, the top left-hand corner are mainly my hanks of yarn that usually would go to, say, a shawl. And because they are like just one skein of them, they would just be there. And also that is what's called Puna. It's Puna over there. It's supposed to be like DK, but it actually feels more like fingering, and it's really soft. I wouldn't, mix it with other DK that is way more like sturdier. So I'm just going to leave it there. And for this, these are like sock yarns that don't count, and I just put them in plastic bag. I know they don't look the best right now. They're not like really fancy. They're not like, floor to ceiling kind of yarn organization right now, but it kind of worked for me because my goal is not for it to look super pretty. My goal is for me to just look at it and know what I have, so that I always have yarn for a project, or I always have them in mind so that I find a home for them. By home, I mean a project. So like these 6 are all fingering weight, but more of a rusticy yarn that I'd like to do some color work instead of putting them in a shawl. So there's some sort of still some sort of organization based on their function. I probably want to make some, say, mittens using them. Okay. And these are all the yarn that I have a sweater quantity of. Not the yellow one, not the pink one. I just put them together. I try to stick to a rule, or, to categorize them, but sometimes they're just exceptions, like anything in our life, right? I just put it there, but all of the other yarns, or except that one as well, are yarn that I have, 4 to 5 skeins of, sweater quantity of yarn. So they're just there. So when I want to knit a sweater, I'll go to them and look for one that I like, because I know there are a lot of the friends, their family, which is now in my wardrobe. And this definitely don't look the prettiest. Here, I put it in like a plastic bag, not the groceries bag, but kind of, it's all DK weight yarn, because if you can see, those are like in the form of a ball, and I don't want to just put them in there because they would just fall out or just look very disorganized. So I just put these DK weight yarn here. And then these are all other DK weight yarn. That is actually 2 hanks of yarn from West Yorkshire Spinner. And these are single skeins of Aran weight yarn. Blue and gray and yellow. And at the back, actually, because this shelf is kind of a deep one, at the back there are some duplicates. Say, for example, if I have 2 skein of gray, I'll put 2 skein at the back, because now I actually kind of assign a function to them. I want them to go into a small color work project, like a hat, or like even like the yoke of a sweater. They're going to go into a color work project, because I don't really know a lot of project that's just like 1 skein of Aran weight yarn or 1 skein of DK weight yarn. So they will be color work, and because it's gonna be a color work yarn, I want to be able to see the color right now. I don't need like 2 skeins of gray. I want to know I have gray, I have navy, these are the color that I have, and if I have duplicates of them, they go to the back. I hope this kind of makes sense to you. Again, they don't look the fanciest, but to be honest, it's fine. I just want them to function, and my goal is to really knit more for my stash, and I feel like my new organization will kind of help me do that. I'm not sure about that. I need more like shawl maybe, or just like all of a sudden I kind of understand why people really love the idea of like a fade, because it's really a project that allows you to use a lot of skeins of yarn. I know the thing is though, you never get to finish a whole hank of yarn. It's usually 30 or 40 or 50% of a hank of yarn, and that actually makes it harder for future project. You just want to knit more fade because you want to use up like the 50% left in the skein. You see what I mean? It's not actually solving the problem. Whatever. This is what I feel like will work for me now, and I hope it will work. And if it doesn't, I'll have another like updated version for you if I do have one. Okay guys, so please let me know down below in the comment section how you usually organize your stash, like what kind of system do you employ, and just let's talk about stash. And also, if you like this episode so far, please consider subscribing to this channel and comment down below, give me a thumbs up, because that will make more people see this podcast. Your one click will make me a happy person. See you guys later. Bye bye. Meet my sweater quantity, aka SQ. I'm just gonna put them aside like in the wardrobe or just places I can't see away from the sun, so that I don't need to be reminded of them. Just kidding, but seriously.